Hello everyone, welcome to today's motivational podcast. So today I'm going to go over the theme, the art of mastery. This is very intricate. All of us want to become masters of our life emotionally, physically, intelligently, mentally. All of these things require mastery. But in order to be a master of our life, we first need to become an apprentice. So I'm going to go over a whole bunch of themes and topics until the steps that will lead you towards mastery of your life, the art of mastery basically, because it is an art. It's not like it's a science. It's not like it's a set to-do list, a set step-by-step. There's more to it. It's very intuitive. It's just every person's journey is unique. Okay, so this is what I want to focus this podcast about. And if you want more guidance on this, on taking mastery and hold up your life, book a personal coaching session with me so we can work on your soul growth, your soul evolution. Maybe you need some healing sessions. All of these things will help you find the life that you're seeking, acquire the spiritual answers that you're seeking, and seek the love of your life. So let us get started. Okay, so today actually, I actually went through my bookshelf where I have a ton of books from ever since I was 18 years old. I started basically having a collection of a whole bunch of philosophy, psychology books, medical books, nutrition books, all of these things that I used to study all the way until now I'm 30 years old. So I came across this wonderful book. It's actually a 3-part book that I have because I have this whole collection. And this is Robert Greene. I'm sure you've all heard of this book. He's basically, a psychologist, kind of more philosopher, because as I was looking into the books, I have The Art of Seduction, which that's a book that I'm going to go over in my Sacred Woman Healing Circle. I have the 48 Laws of Power, which I actually, want to make another video on that, saying how all of that is the wrong way to go, basically, because that's more of the corrupted, egotistical, narcissistic way to approach power. So I didn't want to talk about that today because all of the themes that he puts in that book is the complete opposite way of how a decent human being should act. But this book, The Concise Art of Mastery, I really do like the themes, how he wrote it, but I'm gonna give it a twist to it basically and just go over the themes and give you my input, which is the intuitive, angelic, highly vibrational, positive, of light intuition message. Okay, so let us get started. Okay, so let us open the book. So I want to read to you what it says here. The potential for mastery lies within each of us. Learn the secrets of the path you must follow. Unlock the passion within, and you become a master. Okay. And this is actually based on wisdom from Einstein, which I'm very huge on. I really do study Einstein a lot. And we also have, Darwin, Da Vinci, Sergey Brin. But more than anything, I really do love Einstein. I'm actually doing another study right now on metascience in regards to Einstein's and other philosophers' take on it. And I will actually be talking about that and teaching a little bit about that. Okay, so discovering your life calling, the life's task. Speaking of which, check out my new series on my School of Thought, which is called Discovering Your Life's Purpose. That's another book by Eckhart Tolle. Basically, I was guided to go side by side as we're reading The Power of the Now. So episode 1 is already up, so you can go and check it out. It's really, really cool. And it's actually the first chapter, unlocking the lotus petal leaves of unconsciousness, related to what's going on in my Sacred Woman Healing Circle. In my Sacred Woman Healing Circle, beginning this Sunday, February 9th, I'm going to begin a Lotus Initiation Gateways, which means that it's basically, a return to oneness, a journey back to your goddess energy. Okay, so that's going to be so enlightening, so healing. I'm going to be doing Reiki healing on those videos. Everything's going to be recorded. And for all of you don't know, I have studied Reiki. I've already, studied up to the level 3, which there's 3 levels, 3 basic levels of Reiki that you need to basically surpass to unlock your Reiki powers. Not everyone has the ability really to be a Reiki healer, but some people are called to be in it. And I feel like that's part of my spiritual gift and healing ability. So that's why I really want to incorporate it into my Sacred Woman Healing Circle, which I have since the beginning. But now I want to make it even more intricate, okay? So that's that. And you can do distant Reiki healing as well. But if I ever get to meet you in one of my future retreats, I will be doing that in our circle. Okay, so let us read them. And I will be sipping my coffee. Let us just have fun with this and see, what his thoughts are. All right. It says, everyone holds his fortune in his own hands. Like a sculptor, the raw material he will fashion into a figure. But it's the same with that type of artistic activity as with all others. We are merely born with the capability to do it. The skill to mold the material into what we want must be learned and attentively cultivated. This is a quote by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, which I'm sure you've heard of. And what he's basically saying here is that, every diamond has to be basically, having undergone a deep carving process. A diamond was once a plain stone, but it takes years of molding it to its best shape possible. And it's funny because that metaphor of the diamond was actually, told to me by someone in my past who was special to me at that time. And it kind of frustrated me in the moment that I heard it because I was still in that student phase and I didn't want to hear the truth. But sometimes that's really the truth, and it's a blessing in disguise because you have to enjoy your journey of learning, okay? It's about enjoying the journey, not just the destination. Because then guess what? When you get to the destination, you're gonna have wasted all of those years, being frustrated, hard on yourself. And then what if your life's over when you get to the destination? What's gonna happen? You didn't build any, nice memories along the way. So you have to take it easy on your life. Be gentle with yourself. There exists a form of power and intelligence that represents the high point of human potential. It is the source of the greatest achievements and discoveries in history. So basically, we have the potential for unlimited intelligence. And it's true because this divine intelligence is of higher consciousness. When we tap into that, basically, through metaphysics, through deep spiritual meditation, through transcendence, that's when we get this enlightenment. So it's not even our divinity, our divine intelligence, if you could say. The problem we face is that this form of power and intelligence is either ignored as a subject of study or is surrounded by all kinds of myths and misconceptions, all of which only add to the mystery. We imagine that creativity and brilliance just appear out of nowhere, the fruit of natural talent or perhaps of a good mood, or an alignment of the stars. It would be an immense help to clear up the mystery, to name this feeling of power and to understand how it can be manufactured and maintained. Now what he means by this, because I've already read this book, but it brings back memories of reading this book. When I first started reading this book, I was really young, basically. I was very much new to all of this philosophical ideas. But what he's saying is here that, this concept of mastery is not unattainable, okay? Because most people see it as something that's intangible, or like they're not yet good enough to be a master. And this only sets you back in your mentality. It's like a self-sabotage, okay? But the real truth about mastery is that anybody can do it. But it's hard work, it's ethics, it's discipline, it's diligence, it's commitment and devotion of your lives to study, to research. You have to be at whatever your craft is, basically. You can master your craft, and that's what's gonna make you on the next level, okay? So that's the basic principle of this, that become a master of your craft. And that's gonna make you not only stand out, but it's gonna make your life worth living. That's part of soul evolution, okay? Mastering whatever it is that you do. You see, natural talent or high IQ cannot explain future achievement. And this is true because it's not about how smart you are or how high of a score you got on your IQ test. Intelligence is more than that. And you know what? It's actually been proven that, students who are diagnosed with ADHD, for example, those are actually the more special students. Or even those with what is that one? Autism spectrum. Those children or those people are actually very intelligent. And basically, they're so intelligent that they can't handle being in this human body. This is a concept that I talk about in my New Earth series, Star Seeds, okay, when divine beings that are not humans or just possess a higher intelligence. That's why, you know, they get misdiagnosed. But really, is that they need to be challenged. They're way too smart, they're too gifted, basically, okay? So it basically doesn't matter, you know, these tests of what basically humankind made up, like you don't need certificates to explain how smart you are, okay, or degrees in school. People just put that as a way of like credibility in society, but it really doesn't define your intelligence or your mastery level. Because guess what, you know, I've seen this. You know, you can have, for example, someone who has like the most degrees in their fields, a PhD or whatever. After they finish that PhD, not only have maybe they stopped studying, or maybe they're not as passionate about what they do, or maybe they don't, or they're not taking the time to really learn about it. Whereas someone who didn't even have maybe the money to go to school, you know, are not only like working off all day to trying to develop that knowledge, but maybe they are gifted and they're special as well. Or maybe, you know, they're really passionate about it, more passionate than the one who went to school. So that's an example, because it's not always the case like that. But it's an example and to tell you that it doesn't matter what's on the exterior. We should never judge someone on the exterior, okay? So let us get to the step. Calling, the life's task is discovering your calling. He says, you possess a kind of inner force that seeks to guide you towards your life's task, what you are meant to accomplish in the time that you have to live, your soul mission. In childhood, this force was clear to you. It was directed towards you. It directed you towards activities and subjects that fit your natural inclinations, basically what you like to do. In the intervening years, the force tends to fade in and out as you listen more to parents and peers. This is when you begin to allow yourself to become influenced by those around you, which is not necessarily a good thing, okay? Because you always have to listen to your heart first instead of your head. That's what's gonna guide you in the right direction of your career and whatever you wanna master in your life. The first move towards mastery is always inward, you see? Learning who you really are and reconnecting with that innate force, knowing it with clarity. Remember, perceiving versus knowing from A Course in Miracles. You have to stand in your knowing and your truth. Be authentic and you will find your way in the proper career path, and everything else will fall into place. And look at this, all of us are born unique. This uniqueness is marked genetically in our DNA. Everyone is different, everyone has special gifts. Okay, so don't ever think that you have to be like anybody else, or you're not good enough, or you don't see the gifts in you, you don't see your value. No, everybody's different in their own way. Whatever it is that you're doing for a living, as your passion, that's what you're meant to be doing, and there's a value to that, to the bigger picture, okay? Now, what are some strategies for finding your life task if you have some difficulty with that? Return to your origins, the primal inclination strategy. Basically, you know, returning back to your inner soul and getting in touch with who you really are deep down, and that's gonna guide you in the right direction. Follow the compass of your own soul. 2, occupy the perfect niche. This is our Darwinian strategy. The career world is like an ecological system. People occupy particular fields within which they must compete for resources and survival. The more they are crowded into a space, the harder it becomes to thrive. Working in such a field will tend to wear you out as you struggle to get attention. Play the political games, win scarce resources for yourself. You spend so much time at these games that you have little time left over for true mastery. You are seduced into such fields because you see others there making a living, treading the familiar path, but you're not aware of how difficult such a life can be. The game you want to play is different. Instead, find a niche in the ecology that you can dominate. It is never a simple process to find such a niche. It requires patience and a particular strategy. In the beginning, you choose a field that roughly corresponds to your interest. From there, you go in one of two directions. The first is the narrowing path, basically your specialty. And the second is the connecting, widening path, basically when you start to network. This is basically telling you, not to distract yourself with competition in your field, because guess what? This is what God says. Okay, there's enough success for everybody to go around. There's enough riches, there's enough abundance. Everybody can be successful, okay? You don't need to compete for someone else's success or to be on top, because that's only wasting you time from truly mastering your craft, you see? It's wasting time, because trust me that there's always gonna be someone better out there than you. And times are changing, and it is a political game in the sense that it's very subjective who's on top. It's always changing. You can see from history that the person who was like a leader, you could say, in that generation wasn't always the leader forever. Eventually someone, takes the throne. It's a never-ending cycle. So don't let that seduce you and distract you from the real calling, from the real picture, okay? Exactly. Avoid the false path, which is the rebellion strategy. Basically, whatever career for the wrong reasons, like money, fame, attention, and so on. All of those are not gonna get you where you wanna be. It's not gonna give you that ultimate fulfillment. And let go of the past, which is the adaptation strategy. This means that you're not tied to a particular position. Your loyalty is not to a career or a company. You are committed to your life's tasks to give it full expression. Change is inevitable, particularly in such a revolutionary moment as ours. This is about, okay, when he's talking about the revolutionary moment, this book was obviously written a lot of years ago, okay, but it's also about the age of Aquarius. This was written in 2012, which could have been around the age of Aquarius beginning, the true beginning. But anyhow, we are in a revolutionary stage right now in which people are awakening up spiritually more than ever. So for example, if you spent maybe let's say you spent your whole life or a decade in one certain career, don't let that loyalty to that career, basically your past, hold you back from your true soul mission. Because sometimes, this is how God works in mysterious ways. Everything that you do in your life is never for waste, okay? Whatever you've learned in your career path, in your life, it's always for a purpose, either to help you in this new direction, in this new blend of new passionate career that God is guiding you towards. But whatever it is, you had to go through that lesson in order to build certain skills in your life, in order to learn something. Because it's only gonna make you better in whatever it is that you're truly meant to be doing. So just trust in the divine timing, trust in the flow of the universe, surrender to the divine's plan for your life, okay? Because whatever your destiny is, trust that the stars will be aligned in your favor towards that destiny, okay? Whether you wanna leave that or not. Because maybe it could be another case, like maybe you've built off your life off a career that's built off of ego. Maybe that career was all about fame. Maybe it was all about attention. Maybe it was all about good looks or something. And you don't want to let that career go because it feeds your ego. But then maybe the divine has a bigger plan for you. So this is when you have to just trust in whatever the divine is telling you to do, which is basically let go of the past. So you can truly gain this mastery, okay? 5, find your way back, the life or death strategy. Most often, exactly what it's saying, look, no good can ever come from deviating from the path that you were destined to follow, which is your spiritual mission. You will be assailed by varieties of hidden pain. Most often you deviate because of the lure of money or of more immediate prospects of prosperity. But it's a dead end, basically. It's a dead end career, you see? Not seeing clearly ahead of you, you will end up in a dead end career. Even if your material needs are met, you will feel an emptiness inside that you will need to fill with any kind of belief system, drugs, or diversions. There's no compromise here, no way of escaping the dynamic. You have to listen to the message of this frustration, pain, and let it guide you. It is a matter of life and death, truly, and the way back requires sacrifice. This couldn't be more perfect for today because Today's morning message for a daily message was listen, okay? And this is what it's telling you. Listen to the divine. What is the divine telling you that you need to sacrifice in order to basically be on your spiritual path? Okay, that's the path to ascension, to enlightenment, to the true kingdom of heaven. Look, you cannot have everything in the present. This requires patience, my friends. The road to mastery requires patience. Patience is a virtue. You will have to keep your focus on 5 or 10 years down the road. What did I just say? In my art of visualization, I talk about this planning, you know. You should have a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan for your life. But always, you know, based on actually the new moon in Aquarius that we just had, this was a big theme of that new moon. That make sure that whatever intentions you set for your life are of higher mind thinking. Something that is going to be of service and contribute to the world and humanity. Okay, and this will set you on the right path. When you will reap the rewards of your efforts, the process of getting there, however, is full of challenges and pleasures. Make your return to the path a resolution you set for yourself, and then tell others about it. It becomes a matter of shame and embarrassment to deviate from this path. In the end, the money and success that truly last come not to those who focus on such things as goals, but rather to those who focus on mastery and fulfill their life's task. How perfect is this? Wow. So I should be holding my tea nicely. So good. Now it says submit to reality, the ideal apprenticeship. This is about, you know, being okay being a student if you need to be a student. After your formal education, you enter the most critical phase in your life, a second practical education known as the apprenticeship. The dangers are many. If you're not careful, you will succumb to insecurities, become embroiled in emotional issues and conflicts that will dominate your thoughts. And you will develop fears and learning disabilities that will carry with you throughout your life. And also, you know, maybe being afraid of becoming a teacher and staying stuck as a student. That's actually a shadow aspect of one of the archetypes of the student and the teacher, basically. Before it's too late, you must learn the lessons and follow the path established by the greatest masters, past and present, a kind of ideal apprenticeship that transcends all fears. And you know, speaking of archetypes, I did a workshop on the archetypes a long time ago, like about a month ago in November. And it's not posted on my School of Thought because I just saved it to my files. But I feel like maybe I should post it on my School of Thought so you guys can have access to that and basically learn about all of the archetypes, because that can teach you a lot about your qualities within yourself. And I can teach you, you know, in another video, how to basically come up with what your archetypes are, okay? Because off the top of your head, you're not going to be able to come with it, okay? That would just be your ego talking. You really have to get in a deep meditation in my quantum healing sessions, basically, and really see what kind of archetypes you're functioning out of, maybe which ones are the shadow aspects, etc. All of that could be cool stuff. Look at this by Leonardo da Vinci. The key to mastery. One can have no smaller or greater mastery than mastery of oneself. That's the greatest mastery of all. The mastery of oneself. And that is the path of enlightenment. That's the purpose of life. Even Osho says that. Buddha says that. The principle is simple. It must be engraved deeply in your mind. The goal of an apprenticeship is not money, a good position, a title, or a diploma, but rather the transformation of your mind and character. The first transformation on the way to mastery. These lessons transcend all fields and historical periods because they are connected to something essential about human psychology and how the brain itself functions. They can be distilled into one overarching principle for the apprenticeship phase and a process that loosely follows 3 steps. You enter a career as an outsider because you're new, basically. You're naive and full of misconceptions about this new world. Your head is full of dreams and fantasies about the future. Your knowledge of the world is subjective, based on emotions, insecurities, and limited experience. Slowly, you will ground yourself in reality, in the objective world represented by the knowledge and skills that make most people successful in it. You will learn how to work with others and handle criticism. In the process, you will transform yourself from someone who is impatient and scattered into someone who is disciplined and focused, with a mind that can handle complexity. In the end, you will master yourself and all of your weaknesses. Wow, that couldn't have explained it better. Okay, the apprenticeship phase, the 3 steps. The first step is the deep observation, which is the passive mode. This is when you begin to observe. Okay, I used to do this in my early years. I was a very much shy girl, but only because I was observing everything around me, and I actually learned a lot about this observation phase. It made me very intelligent, and that's why it made me want to go deeper into my psychology career in college as a youthful woman, as a young adult, basically. Look at this. You basically have to humble yourself in this phase, okay? Be okay with not knowing, and don't pretend that you know things that you don't know. Because look what it says. And this is probably, in the very beginning of your career or whatever you do for a living. The greatest mistake you can make in the initial months of your apprenticeship is to imagine that you have to get attention, impress people, and prove yourself. These thoughts will dominate your mind and close it off from the reality around you. You basically will become unteachable if this is your mindset. So you have to be open to learning new things, and you have to be moldable. You have to allow yourself to be teachable. Understand there are several critical reasons why you must follow this step. First, knowing your environment inside and out will help you in navigating it and avoiding costly mistakes, unnecessary mistakes if you just listen. You are like a hunter. Your knowledge of every detail of the forest and of the ecosystem as a whole will give you many more options for survival and success. Second, the ability to observe any unfamiliar environment will become a critical lifelong skill. You will develop the habit of stilling your ego and looking outward instead of inward. You will see in any encounter what most people miss because they're thinking of themselves. You see, this is about also listening skills. I talk about this in couple sessions, but it's also about listening in general, whether you're a counselor, whether you're a parent, whether you're just a friend. Listening requires you to actually silence your mind, because if you're spending your mind thinking about where you're going to respond as that person's speaking, then you're not really listening. You understand? So this is the same thing when it comes to learning when you're a student. Don't fill up your mind with what are you going to respond, what are you going to say, what are you going to do to impress. Okay, just silence your mind and allow the genius of the divine to enter you, the teacher's knowledge. Because this teacher has been sent to you in your life for a purpose. And be grateful for that. Now the step 2 is the skills acquisition, which is the practice mode. This is now when you have to practice what you've been observing, what you've been learning. Okay? This is the mastering of skills. It is more of a mix of the physical and mental, such as the observing and collecting of specimens from Charles Darwin. In acquiring any kind of skill, there exists a natural learning process that coincides with the functioning of our brain. So this is very chemical that happens in our brains. The learning process leads to what we shall call tacit knowledge, a feeling for what you're doing that is hard to put into words, but easy to demonstrate in action. And to understand how this learning process operates, it's useful to look at the greatest system ever invented for the training of skills and the achievement of tacit knowledge. For example, in the Middle Ages, the apprenticeship system, young people from approximately the ages of 12 to 17 would enter work in a shop, signing a contract that would commit them for the term for 7 years. This is also kind of like the Druids training that we spoke about in last episode, which is so appropriate, actually, why I was guided to here. And the Greek mythology is probably going to be next session, but because this is what they had to undergo. They had to sign a contract of 20 years if they wanted to become a Druid and basically undergo this apprenticeship in order to become a master of their craft, okay? Become a masterful Druid. At the end of this term, apprentices would have to pass a master test or produce a master work to prove their level of skill. This is like passing a test in school, basically. There's basic skills about skills themselves. Reaching this cycle is the goal you must set for yourself. First, it is essential that you must begin with one skill that you can master. Basically, focus on one thing at a time. That serves as a foundation for acquiring others. Look at this, what I just said, focus on one thing at a time. You must avoid at all costs the idea that you can manage learning several skills at a time. You need to develop your powers of concentration. This is what meditation's for. Focus. And understand that trying to multitask will be the death of the process. Second, the initial stages of learning a skill invariably involve tedium. Yet rather than avoiding this inevitable tedium, you must accept and embrace it. Basically, stick to it no matter how tedious it gets in the process, okay? Because this is all about discipline, okay? Not every day you're gonna wanna wake up early and do whatever it is that you have to do. Not every day you're gonna wanna go to work. You know, all of these things require discipline. That's where discipline and diligence come into play. You see, the pain and the boredom we experience in the initial stage of learning a skill toughens our mind, much like physical exercise. Once something is repeated enough, it becomes hardwired and automatic. Practice makes it perfect. In a sense, when you practice and develop any skill, you transform yourself in the process. You become one with the tool or instrument or thing that you're studying. Step 3 is experimentation. This is the active mode now. This is the shortest part of the process, but a critical component nonetheless. As you gain in skill and confidence, you must make the move to a more active mode of experimentation. This could mean taking on more responsibility, maybe teaching a little bit, initiating a project of some sort, doing work that exposes you to the criticisms of peers and even the public. This is when you put yourself out there as a teacher, okay? This is kind of like the, what is that word? The internship phase, okay? The point of this is to gauge your progress and whether there's still gaps in your knowledge. This is when you start filling your gaps, because like Osho says, the secret to teaching and becoming a great teacher is to actually teach more. That's how you become a better student anyway, and that's how you learn more. Because you're observing yourself in action and seeing how you respond to the judgment of others. Now, can you take criticism and use it constructively? You have to be open always to criticism, constructive criticism, of course. Obviously, don't let no one bully you. Now, strategies for complementing the ideal apprenticeship. Marcus Aurelius says, do not think that what is hard for you to master is humanly impossible. And if it is humanly possible, consider it to be within your reach. Throughout history, masters in all fields have devised for themselves various strategies to help them pursue and complete an ideal apprenticeship. The following are 8 classic strategies distilled from the stories of their lives. Although some might seem more relevant than others to your circumstances, each of them relates fundamental truths about the learning process itself that would be wise to internalize. So all of these skills are going to be fundamental, okay? Number 1 is value learning over money. Of course, you value learning over money. Even if you have to basically spend some time learning things without getting paid, realize the value in that, okay? Because money is not everything. And not only that, but once you really become a master at your craft, you're gonna get paid double afterwards because you're truly gonna become a master at what you do. So don't, feel that when you're in this when you're in this internship phase before becoming an entrepreneur and you're basically working for free and not getting paid, don't see it as a bad thing. See it as a good thing because you're gonna become better at whatever it is you're doing. This will lead you all of the right choices. You will opt for the situation that will give you the most opportunities to learn, particularly with hands-on work. You would choose a place that has people and mentors who can inspire and teach you. 2, keep expanding your horizons. Mingle with as different types of kind of people as possible. Those circles will slowly widen. Any kind of outside schooling will add to the dynamic. Be relentless in your pursuit for expansion. Always keep learning, basically. Even if you're a master at your craft, there's still room to mingle with different people. Whenever you feel like you're settling into some circle, force yourself to shake things up and look for new challenges. With your mind expanding, you will redefine the limits of your apparent worlds. Soon ideas and opportunities will come to you and your apprenticeship will naturally complete itself. 3, revert to a feeling of inferiority. This is again about being humble, okay? Not thinking that you know it all. 4, trust the process, of course. When you learn a skill, we frequently reach a point of frustration. What we are learning seems beyond our capabilities. Giving into these feelings, we subconsciously quit on ourselves before we actually give up. Now, the difference between those who succeed and those who don't is not simply a matter of determination, but more of trust and faith, and I would say blind faith, okay? Many of those who succeed in life have had the experience in their youth of having mastered some skill. But buried in their minds is the sensation of overcoming their frustrations and entering the cycle of accelerated returns. It's basically a strong-willed mind. In moments of doubt in the present, the memory of the past experiences rises to the surface. Filled with trust in the process, they trudge on well past the point at which others slow down or mentally quit. When it comes to mastering a skill, time is the magic ingredient. Assuming your practice proceeds at a steady level, over days and weeks, certain elements of the skill become hardwired. Slowly, the entire skill becomes internalized, part of your nervous system. The boredom will go away once you enter the cycle, but you have to have faith in the process. The panic disappears after repeated exposure because you get used to it, basically. 5 is to move towards resistance and pain. Basically, challenge yourself, okay? Get out of your comfort zone, okay? Because look what he says. You give yourself arbitrary deadlines to meet certain standards, constantly pushing yourself past perceived limits outside your comfort zone. You invent exercises that work upon your weaknesses. You train yourself to concentrate and practice with double the intensity as if it were the real thing times 2. In devising your own routines, you become as creative as possible. In this way, you develop your own standards of excellence, generally higher than that of others. In the end, your 5 hours of intense focused work are the equivalent of 10 for most people. Because basically, those number of hours were of quality, not quantity. Soon enough, you will see the results of such practice, and others will marvel at the apparent ease in which you accomplish your deeds. 6 is to apprentice yourself in failure. And also look what he says. This is the path of amateurs. To attain mastery, you must adopt what we shall call the resistance practice. The principle is simple. You go in the opposite direction of all your natural tendencies when it comes to practice. First, you resist this temptation to be nice to yourself. Kind of be hard on yourself, okay? And that's how you grow. You become your own worst critic. You see your work as if through the eyes of others. You recognize your weaknesses, precisely the elements you're not good at, and those are the aspects that you give precedence to in your practice. You are a kind of perverse pleasure in moving past the pain that this might bring. Second, you resist the lure of easing up on your focus. Basically, you train harder. Now, the 6th step is apprentice yourself in failure. This is basically, keep going even after you fail. Keep standing up. When it comes to being an entrepreneur, there's really only one effective form of apprenticeship, and that is failure. Because it is like working on a machine. When you devise malfunctions, you don't take it personally or grow despondent. It is in fact a blessing in disguise, because now you know what not to do, basically. Such malfunctions generally show you inherent flaws and means of improvement. It's a great thing when you realize what your flaws are, because now you can work on mastering them. And that's how basically you're gonna work on your perfection. Then 7 is combine the how and the what. We humans live in 2 worlds. First, we have the outer worlds of appearances, all of that which captures our eye. The second world is not so immediately captivating. It's harder to understand. It's not something visible to the eye. But this how of things is just as poetic once we understand it. And it contains the secret of life, of how things move and change. Understand that we live in a world of a sad separation that once began 500 years ago, when art and science split apart. This is about basically the battle between mind and heart. You see, seeing things from a logical point of view versus a higher perspective point of view. We need to combine them, especially when it comes to mastery. Because rounding our knowledge in this way will give you a deeper feel for reality and the heightened power to alter it, basically by co-creating with the universe. Okay, when you see beyond the veil, when you see just beyond the 3D matrix. And last but certainly not least, 8, of course, advance through trial and error. That's the secret. And Einstein actually says that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and expecting a different result. So this is why every time that you trial and you fail, you try something new. Okay, don't keep doing the same thing. There must be made adjustments to whatever it is you're doing. Now let us get to the keys of mastery and the alchemy of knowledge. Absorb the master's power, the mentor dynamic. Life is short and your time for learning and creativity is limited, unfortunately. Without any guidance, you waste valuable years trying to gain knowledge and practice from various sources. Instead, you must follow the example set by masters throughout the ages and find the proper mentor. This is, about soul evolution. All of the masters before us, all of the enlightened beings before us, Jesus, Buddha, why waste your years trying to come up with the same principles that they have already laid out for us? They have set out the blueprint. Follow those blueprints and then work on expanding them even further, okay? That's how you use your time wisely. And in whatever craft that you're doing, because chances are in whatever craft you're doing, there's been others before you that have mastered that craft. The mentor-protege relationship is the most efficient and productive form of learning. The right mentors know where to focus your attention and how to challenge you. Their knowledge and experience becomes yours. This is also about seeking a wise mentor that you click with, okay? That is of your high energetic vibration. Maybe part of your soul tribe, okay? Their knowledge and experience become yours. They provide immediate and realistic feedback on your work so you can improve more rapidly. Choose the mentor who best fits your needs and work and connects to your life's task. Once you have internalized their knowledge, you must move on and never remain in their shadow. So this is when eventually you have to part and you have to become your own leader. Your goal is always to surpass your mentors and in mastery and brilliance. This is just for the purpose of human evolution, okay? This is not an egotistical, competitive way of looking at this. Strategies for deepening the mentor dynamic. Wow. One repays a teacher badly if one remains only a pupil. Well, that's true, because if you always remain a student, then basically that teacher's gonna feel bad about her teaching skills because they didn't teach you how to basically move on, okay? Although you must submit to the authority of mentors in order to learn from and absorb their power to the highest degree, this doesn't mean that you remain passive in the process. At certain critical points, you can set and determine the dynamic, personalize it to suit your purposes. The following 4 strategies are designed to help you exploit the relationship to the fullest and transform the knowledge you gain into creative energy. Choose the mentor according to your needs and inclinations. Gaze deep into the mentor's mirror. This is about getting to know your mentor. Transfigure their ideas. This is about being open and completely receptive to their ideas, but not falling under their spell. Because if you take it too far, you become so marked by their influence that you have no internal space to incubate and develop your own voice. And you spend your life tied to ideas that are not even your own. So this is the solution. It's very subtle. Even as you listen and incorporate the ideas of your mentors, you must slowly cultivate some distance from them. We begin gently by adapting their ideas to our circumstances, altering them to fit our style and inclinations. As you progress, you become bolder, even focusing on faults or weaknesses in some of their ideas. We slowly mold their knowledge into our own shape. As we gain and grow in confidence and contemplate our independence, you can even grow more competitive with the mentor that you once worshipped. Establishing your differences with the mentor is an important part of self-development. Leonardo da Vinci said, "Poor is the apprentice who does not surpass his master." Because the whole purpose behind a good master is basically to want their students to surpass them. Okay, that's the whole purpose of a good master. That's actually said somewhere that that's the difference between a good master and a great master, a true master and a false master. A false master will always want to keep their students under their control because it feeds their ego, whereas a true master will want them to surpass them because they've done a good job, basically. They've done their mission. It's kind of like also the metaphor of John the Baptist and Jesus Christ. John the Baptist was the first waver. His mission on earth, and he knew it, was basically to open up this pathway for Jesus to arrive, okay, to begin prophesizing, to begin this um, discipleship and to begin this school basically of followers. And then Jesus comes in and takes over and begins the real mission, the way. He sets the path. Okay, that's an example of an apprenticeship in different dynamic though. Create a back and forth dynamic. This is about, interaction. And then he speaks about social intelligence. See people as they are. Let us see. The social intelligence is important in mastering your skills, of course, because you need to network with people. Okay. Often the greatest obstacle to our pursuit of mastery comes from the emotional drain we experience in dealing with the resistance and manipulations of the people around us. The principal problem we face in the social arena is our naive tendency to project onto people our emotional needs and desires of the moment. Social intelligence is the ability to see people in the most realistic light possible. By moving past our usual self-absorption, we can learn to focus deeply on others, reading their behavior in the moment, seeing what motivates them, and discerning any possible manipulative tendencies. Success attained without this intelligence is not true mastery and will not last. Reading people. What this means is that when we're not inward directed, but attending more deeply to another person, we gain access to forms of communication that are largely nonverbal in nature and quite effective in their own way. This is about like when you're talking to someone or listening for that matter, you pay attention to the nonverbal cues, to the energy, to the body language. That's true interaction. That's true conversation. Okay? The intuitive form of reading people becomes more effective and accurate the more you use it. But it's best to combine it with other more conscious forms of observation. For instance, you should take particular note of people's actions and decisions. Your goal is to figure out the hidden motives behind them, which will often revolve around power. People will say all kinds of things about their motives and intentions. They're used to dressing things up with words. Their actions, however, say much more about their character, about what really is going on underneath the surface. So you need to be sensitive about any extreme behavior on their part, such as an overtly friendly manner, a blustery front, a constant penchant for jokes. You will often notice that this is wear like a mask to hide the opposite, to distract others from the truth. They are blustery because they are inwardly very insecure. They're overly friendly because they are secretly ambitious and aggressive, or they joke to hide a mean-spiritedness. In general, you're reading and decoding every possible sign, including the clothes they wear and the organized and disorganized nature of their workspace. The choice of mate or partner can be quite eloquent too, particularly if it seems slightly inconsistent with the character they try to project. In this choice, they can reveal unmet needs from childhood, a desire for power and control, a low self-image, and other qualities they normally seek to disguise. What might seem like small issues, chronically being late, insufficient attention to detail, not returning any favors on your part, are signs of something deeper about their character. And these are patterns that you need to pay attention to. Nothing is too small to notice. That couldn't be more right. Oh wow, now he talks about the 7 deadly realities or sins. Most of us have these negative qualities, which are of the ego. Envy, conformism, rigidity, self-obsessiveness, laziness, flightiness, and passive aggression. When it comes to envy, I didn't expect to go in this way, but this must be relevant to social intelligence. Envy is our nature to constantly compare ourselves to others in terms of money, looks, coolness, intelligence, popularity, or any other form. But it's basically, caused by insecurities. Seething with envy, the only way to discharge it is to find a way to obstruct or sabotage the person who elicited the emotion. If they take such action, they will never say it because of envy, but will find some other more socially acceptable excuse that makes it a very hard quality to recognize in people. But there are some indications you can look for. People who praise you too much or become overly friendly in the first stages of knowing you are often envious and are getting closer in order to hurt you. If you detect unusual levels of insecurity in a person, he will more likely be prone to envy. In general, however, envy is very difficult to discern, and the most prudent course of action is to make sure your own behavior doesn't inadvertently trigger it. If you have a gift for a certain skill, you should make a point of occasionally displaying some weakness in another area, avoiding the great danger of appearing too perfect or talented. Now, first of all, nobody is perfect, okay? Everyone has flaws. If they're dealing with insecure types, you can display great interest in their work and even turn to them for advice. So that's social intelligence, basically. When it comes to conformism, if you have a rebellious or naturally eccentric streak, as is often the case with those who are aiming for mastery, you must be careful in displaying your difference too overtly, particularly in the apprenticeship phase. Let your work subtly demonstrate your individual spirit, but when it comes to matters of politics, morals, and values, make a show of adhering to the accepted standards of your environment. As you gain mastery later, you will have the ample opportunity to let your individuality shine through and to reveal your contempt for people's correctness. When it comes to rigidity, it's useless to fight against people's rigid ways or stubborn ways, basically, or to argue against their irrational concepts. You will waste time and make yourself rigid in the process. The best strategy is to simply accept rigidity in others, outwardly displaying deference to their need for order. On your own, however, you must work to maintain your open spirit, let go of bad habits, and deliberately cultivate new ideas. When it comes to self-obsessiveness, in the work environment, you almost always inevitably think first and foremost of yourself. The world is a harsh and competitive place, and we must look after our own interest. Even when we act for the greater good, we're often unconsciously motivated by the desire to be liked by others and have our image enhanced in the process. When it is time to ask a favor or help, you must think first of appealing to people's self-interest in some way. You must look at the world through their eyes, getting a sense for their needs. You must give them something to value in exchange for helping you. Find a way to make conversations revolve around them and their interest, all of which will go far to winning them to your side. When it comes to laziness, we all have that tendency, obviously. It's best to cultivate. Your best defense is your prudence. Keep your ideas to yourself or conceal enough of the details so that it is not possible to steal them. If you're doing work for a superior, be prepared to take full credit and leave your name out. In general, be wary of people who want to collaborate. They're often trying to find someone who will do the heavier lifting for them. So what does that have to do with laziness? We all have the tendency to want to take the quickest, easiest path to our goals, but we generally manage to control our impatience. We understand the superior value of getting what we want through hard work. For some people, however, this inveterate lazy streak is far too powerful. Okay, so this is what I'm getting. So when people are lazy, some people will seek others to collaborate with so that they can do the heavy lifting for them. You get it? So that's obviously not good. That's a deadly sin, a deadly reality. And then we move on to flightiness. We like to show how much our decisions are based on rational considerations. But the truth is that we're largely governed by our emotions, which continually color our perceptions. What this means is that the people around you, constantly under the pool of their emotions, change their ideas by the day or by the hour, depending on their mood. So it's best to cultivate both distance and a degree of detachment from other people's shifting emotions, so you're not caught up in the process. Don't take seriously people's promises or their ardor in wanting to help you. Rely upon yourself to get things done and you will never be disappointed. That's true. Always, you are your own best friend, always. You and the divine. And when it comes to passive aggression, the root cause of all passive aggression is the human fear of direct confrontation. Because of this fear, some people look for indirect means for getting their way, making their attacks subtle enough so it's hard to figure out what's going on, while giving them control of the dynamic. Your best defense is to recognize these types before you're embroiled in a battle and avoid them at all costs. Avoid entangling yourself emotionally in dramas and battles, because they are masters at controlling the dynamic and you will almost always lose in the end. And then he comes up with strategies for acquiring social intelligence in the community, basically. Because Charles Darwin says this: "We must, however, acknowledge that man, with all his noble qualities, with sympathy which feels for the most debased, with benevolence which extends not only to other men, but to the humblest living creature, with his godlike intellect, which has penetrated into the movements and constitution of the solar system, with all these exalted powers, man still bears in his bodily frame the indelible stamp of his lowly origin." So basically, in order to acquire social intelligence for your work, for your mastery, this is what he recommends. Speak through your work. Craft the appropriate persona. People will tend to judge you based on your outward appearance. So make sure that whatever it is that you're projecting into the community is what's going on within, you see? Be very detailed about you. See others as others see you. Put yourself in their shoes, okay? What are you portraying out into the world? And suffer fools gladly. Now, what's this about? This is about, not engaging in foolishness of other people. See, because in the course of your life, you will continually encounter fools. Those that place importance on immediate money, getting attention from the public or media, or even looking good. They're obviously ruled by their ego and insecurities. They tend to enjoy drama and political intrigue for their own sake. When they criticize, they always emphasize matters that are irrelevant to the overall picture or argument. They're more interested in their career and position than the truth. You can distinguish them by how little they get done or how hard they make it for others to get results. They lack a certain common sense, getting worked up about things that are really not important while ignoring problems that are real, basically. So the natural tendency with fools is to lower yourself to their level when they annoy you or get you under their skin or draw you into a battle. Don't do this, basically, because that's obviously giving your power away. In dealing with fools, you need to adopt a following philosophy. They are a simple part of life. It's like the trolls in life, okay? They're inevitable. Just don't pay attention to them. That's how you give your power away. Actually, someone sent me a very nice quote the other day that was from Einstein. He says, "Weak people can forgive. Strong people forgive. Intelligent people don't even care, basically. Don't give it their attention, okay? They just walk away. They're oblivious." That's what it means, basically. Okay, now we get to the awaken that dimensional mind, the creative active. How do you awaken that mastery? As you accumulate more skills and internalize the rules that govern your field, your mind will want to become more active, seeking to use this knowledge in ways that are more suited to your inclinations. What will impede this natural creative dynamic from flourishing is not a lack of talent, but your attitude. Feeling anxious and insecure, you will tend to turn conservative with your knowledge, preferring to fit into the group and sticking to the procedures you have learned. Instead, you must force yourself in the opposite direction. Instead of feeling complacent about what you know, you must expand your knowledge to related fields, giving your mind fuel to make new associations between different ideas. You must experiment and look at problems from all possible angles. As your thinking grows more fluid, your mind will become increasingly dimensional, seeing more and more aspects of reality. So when it comes to acquiring this creative task, first you need to basically choose the proper creative task, the kind of activity that will maximize your skill and knowledge. Second part is to loosen and open up the mind through creative strategies, okay, through meditation, through transmutation of pain into creativity. Allow for spontaneity. Allow for serendipity. Surrender to the universe. Go with the flow of whatever's going through your divine inspirations. Be open-minded. Get back in touch to who you really are. And then step 3 is to create the optimal mental conditions for a breakthrough or insight. This is about finally, believing in yourself to make it happen, okay? You can master yourself. And be aware of some of these emotional pitfalls, which can be complacency, meaning settling with where you are in life. Never settle. You always have to dream big, okay? Always believe in your unlimited potential. You're limitless. Maybe boredom or grandiosity. All of these can derail you or even block your progress, okay? When you're bored, this is only a calling for you to regain that intrinsic motivation and passion for what you're doing. Maybe you need to change direction in your life. Maybe you need to adjust your strategy. And if you're feeling grandiosity, obviously you need to humble yourself and speak to the divine. Get in touch with your spirituality. Now, how to fuse the intuitive with the rational. This is the art of mastery. Fusing the mind with the heart, okay? Because it's not logical. You have to think with your soul. All of us have access to higher forms of intelligence. Finally, he got to this part. Higher consciousness, okay? Divine intelligence. All of us have access to a higher form of intelligence. One that can allow us to see more of the world. You see the bigger picture and the bigger vision. To anticipate trends. Not give in to the social trends. Forget about that. Throw that out the window. Just focus on what your heart's telling you to do. To respond with speed and accuracy to any circumstance. This intelligence is cultivated by deeply immersing ourselves in a field of study and staying true to our inclinations. Okay, no matter how popular a career is or a subject is, stay true to yourself. And in divine timing, you will get the recognition and reward that you seek. No matter how unconventional our approach might seem to others. You see, you have to stand in your originality, in your uniqueness. That's the art of mastery. The unique masters are the ones who stand out. Through such intense immersion over many years, we come to internalize and gain an intuitive feel for the complicated components of our field. When we fuse this intuitive feel with rational processes, we expand our minds to the outer limits of our potential and are able to see into the secret core of life itself. And that's how I'm going to end this amazing The Art of Mastery podcast today. Stay tuned for future videos and have an amazing and beautiful day. Namaste.